Okay, guys, so this will be the first video. I did the introduction to the series, but this will be an ongoing series. I'm going to dedicate, again, because this, healing is hard enough, but then having children is a whole nother bag of tricks to navigate. So, this series is dedicated to, us parents who are trying to figure this out, that are trying to remain dedicated, committed to healing, while at the same time having kids. Most of us who do have kids, younger kids, they're in public school systems. It doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter, private or public, but they're in school systems, indoctrination systems that, go completely against everything that is truth. So, the healing is all about truth. So it's a butting of heads, and it's navigating that with these indoctrination systems, with these governments, which demand compliance in certain ways, whether that be through medical interventions or mind interventions and placing programming and indoctrination into our minds, and other things as well. So, this has been something that's been heavy on me. I just got finished making the first video in this series, and I felt so much better after I made that video. I just felt like, I was originally starting that video out, and I was supposed to be about going straight in about my kids, and it ended up the way it was, which was perfect, I think, as an introduction to this series. So if you haven't checked that video out, I would definitely say check that video out, as I cover a lot of basic things, a lot of where, the whole mindset comes from, things that we deal with, etc. So this is the first actual video I'm making for that, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with my relationship with Brandon, my oldest son. He's 25. He's healing now. He's the only one of my kids on the healing journey. And I'll go over that here in the first video, and just try to relate, so that way you can see how I handle the shame and guilt and the baggage that I carry with having propagated and perpetuated the abuse and trauma onto him. Because, I had him when I was 18. I was, I think, I don't even know where we were. I think we were living in an apartment, me and his mom. And then, I had no clue what I was going to do, because I was working. I don't even remember where I was fucking working at. She was working at a grocery store as a clerk, as a ringer upper of the groceries, or whatever they're called. I don't know. So, we found out she was pregnant. Of course, we came from that whole mindset, we're going to do, because we were trauma bonded. She was severely abused as a child. I mean, severely, by her mother, abandoned and abused, almost killed a couple different times. Her mom tried drowning her, because her mom was only like 15 when she had him, or when she had her, and she was born in Guatemala. So her mom had her, and basically her grandma had to, because I think she was like the youngest of several kids. You know how big those families are down there. And, her mom was the youngest of several kids, and so she was the most spoiled and everything else. And she was only 15 when she had Brandon's mom, my first wife. And, so she was extremely narcissistic and selfish. And, so she hated my wife. She, so she was living with her mom at the time down there in Guatemala. And, she hated her. Like, she refused to take care of her. She refused to do anything for her. So her grandma, my wife's grandma, actually had to raise her. And I think one time before she left, because her mom ended up leaving with some guy to America, and before she left, she had tried drowning her already by the age of like 5 or something. She had tried drowning my ex-wife. She would just pull her hair and just, oh, my wife told me some horrible stories of how she was treated. So, again, not going into all that, but, just the fact that, so she had a very tough childhood, extremely abused. And it got worse because then she ended up coming to America at 14. So her grandma raised her down there in Guatemala till she was 14. And then her mom sent for her up here. And then, so she came up here and things were not good. And then I had, of course, my fucked up childhood. You guys can go back and see my videos of how crazy, it was and all of that and the mommy issues that I had. And so when she got pregnant at 18 years old and we're just these street kids, it was it was us trauma bonding together and looking at it as a reason to, solidify our relationship. And, we had only been together, maybe a few months or whatever. And, so we were extremely trauma bonded. We were crazy. We were nutty buddy, man. We were some crazy fuckers. Because we acted out, we were like feral cats. I mean, we created chaos, fights. I mean, with people. I mean, it was nuts. Complete and utter chaos. And, so that's why we had Brandon. And we thought, oh, we're going to do what our parents did wrong. We're going to do it right. And we'll show them and we'll show each other. And this kid's going to love us and treat us, because we hated our parents. But we were like, we're going to do it right, So it was all about us, And so we brought Brandon into the slavery. And I freaked out, because I was like, fuck, man, I got to at least, I got to have a career. I got to have a job. I got to, not ever, whatever I was doing some stupid job. I was like, I need a career. I need to do something. And so I ended up joining the military. And so I joined the military, and then we got to the base. And, it was just, I was in the infantry, Army infantry, and it was just nothing but drinking and fucking and fighting and craziness, and that's just how it was. But see, we went on red cycle rotation when I joined the military. I was in for 3 years. We went on red cycle rotation, so I was constantly in the field training. And then I went to Bosnia for 7 months on peacekeeping mission. So I was gone a lot. I was gone at least half the time I was gone. Training or in the field or whatever else, at least half the time I was in. And that's why I got out, because I was like, well, I haven't been able to spend a lot of time with my family, and all of these types of things. So Brandon was around all that chaos as a young kid. Me and his mom didn't really fight. I'm sure we did. When we did, it was probably, drunken fights of going nuts and then fucking and then making up, and that stupid shit. At 1, 2 years old, 3 years old, he was around that. And then I got out, and then, it was chaos. His mom went downhill. By this time, we had been together 3.5 years. His mom had another kid. We had another child. And then we ended up breaking up. So, we separated at, he was like 6, 7 years old, whatever that was. Yeah, so you can imagine, already, all the craziness just by the time he was 6 years old that happened. I became a severe alcoholic. I was an alcoholic since I was a teenager, but I was at least able to function in properly in society and those types of things. But I became a severe alcoholic, when I left his mom. I guess I was like 25. Yeah, so I think he was like 7. Um, and so then he was around my severe alcoholism, and I kept him with me for a year. I didn't work, and I just drank from morning to night, and just wallowed in my pity and my shame and my sorrow, and so he was around a severe alcoholic dad for that year, and then I sent him off to his mom, where she abused the fuck out of him for a year, and then he came back and lived with me, and then I was fucking running around with all these women and fucking off, and then I got with my crazy second wife. Oh my god, that fucking narcissistic bitch. And so then he had to deal with that because she treated him like shit, and it's just been chaos. I brought him into straight chaos, and because I refused to heal, I didn't know what healing was. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about any type of healing. I didn't know anything about any kind of psychiatric help. I didn't know anything about any kind of religious help. I didn't know anything about anything of that when it came to that stuff. I thought what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and you buck up, you do what you got to do. It's a dog eat dog. It's survival of the fittest. And man, I mean, I was a monster. I lived like a goddamn fucking chaotic, goddamn crazy man. But I did love my children. I was always told, "Oh, you're such a good dad," because I spent time with them. Before we moved out, and he was, up to 7 years old. We lived in this community up there in Manassas, and it was mostly a Spanish community, so there were tons of kids, and I would be the only dad out there playing football with all the kids, and just always hanging out playing soccer and just doing things with them, right? Like 20, 30, 40 kids. I mean, tons of them. And so, and then when Brandon came and moved back with me, we'd always wrestle together, and we'd play video games together, and we'd watch movies together, and so I've always spent time with my kids. But just think about what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. I was drunk all of those times. I was drunk. Well, except for when he was real young and I was in Manassas, I wasn't drunk all the time then. But every time after that, I was completely blasted. But even though I spent time with him, that's me virtue signaling. That's me saying, look how I did what I could do. See, and I could end it like that. That's what most parents would do. Most parents would be unhealed parents that do not allow the truth to come out, that do not allow the facts to come out, that do not allow their child to express themselves and say, look, I felt traumatized as a kid. Look, I'm having all this confusion. They get older, they want to talk about these things, and the parent's like, well, I did the best I could do. I did what I knew how to do. I did better than my parents. I did, at least I was better than those other parents, and we use these excuses and justifications. Guys, there is no room in this healing for excuses and justifications, period. No room. No room for excuses and justifications. You need, every time something comes up and you're trying to defend yourself or your actions or your beliefs or your thoughts or whatever, or your emotions with excuses and justifications, you need to stop immediately. Now, this is where being present and aware, constantly present, always present, right here, right now. I'm not here in my room thinking about 50 other things outside of here and work and preparing for this and getting ready for that and bills and taking care of this, and this person wants to call me and I got this obligation over here and the mechanic's coming over here. And no, you're not going to get anywhere living like that. This healing requires constant being present and aware. So if you find being constant, present, and aware, you're going to start catching yourself when you start excusing and justifying. And so this is what I'm trying to say. As a healing parent that I am, when Brandon comes to me with something from his childhood, I acknowledge, I think about it, I process it, I'm open about things. I try to assist with my memories how I can in those things. I apologize for whatever, a part I might have played in whatever issue he might be having. And I'm just completely open and honest. I do not. This is what a terrible parent. This is what an unhealed parent does. They make excuses and justifications. They don't. Their kid comes to them and tries to talk to them about something, or tries to ask them, or tries to unburden themselves with something, and that parent just go immediately. I did the best I can, and defends themselves. And that is not. If you find yourself doing that, those are your opportunities to heal. Those are your opportunities to see. Okay, look. This is uncomfortable. This doesn't feel good. I don't want to talk about this. This is bad. I don't want to think about it. I want to bury this in the past. I want to put this back in the closet. Don't ever talk about this again. Don't ever think about this again. Out of sight, out of mind. If we don't talk about it, it never happened. That is not good. That is not good. No bueno. Never, ever, ever. This healing is, when those things come up, is your opportunity to expose the truth, let the truth out, and start healing. As soon as you talk about it, get it out of you, it will allow you to start healing. And this goes even into my latest thing with Brandon. Brandon had come to me a year ago or whatever it was, and he said, Dad, hey, Grandma, I had went to Grandma, when you had taken me up there to visit her, because I used to take him up for summer vacation like 1 week or so out of every summer when he was little. And yeah, to my abusive mom, who abused my manipulative, conniving, evil, nasty mother, controlling mother. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say, guys. And that's so I have to recognize and accept that, hey, the same person that abused me, I put my son in her hands. I mean, that's crazy. That's disgusting. That's propagating and perpetuating abuse. That is so ungood, unhealed, unnatural. That is such derelict of my duties as a parent to protect my child, to put them back under the authority of the person who abused me. And that's just a sign, guys. So these are all signs for you to see if this can relate to your own life. If you've put your kids in your parents' care who abused you, if you're allowing these things, to see this is not good. Don't do this anymore. You need to start thinking critically about these things. You need to investigate. Because the only reason you would do that is because of your trauma bond with that predator that abused you. That's the only reason why you allow your children, who you are responsible for, that is the power of these predators, that they not only are affecting you and have control over you and manipulated you and energy sucked the shit out of you, but they have you so under their thumb that you are using your own, they've got now access to your children and your innocent children that you're responsible for. And you willingly, consentingly hand them over to be abused by them. So, Brandon, a year ago had come to me, and it might have been before that. He's mentioned it before. I can't remember, but we'll just start from a year ago because that's what I can remember. He had come to me and said, Dad, he's like, I had went to Grandma one time when you dropped me off when I was younger. That was the time that he had just come out of living with his mom, or he was at the time when I had to drop him back off to live with his mom for that year or 9 months or whatever it was. And she was abusing him. He never told me outright about the abuse, but when he was up to see his grandma, had told her. And so she said, okay, I'm documenting. And I guess they sat down, she was writing it or typing it all down. And, he said, I had told Grandma, and she said she was going to tell you, and that, you guys were going to do something about it, whatever happened with that. And I told him flat out, I was like, I have no clue what you're talking about. I have no recollection. My mom never said a goddamn word to me about that. da 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 da, right? So that it came back up like 6 months ago, and then I doubled down. I was like, yeah, I don't have no right. My mom's a lying fucking sack of shit. I don't know what she's talking about. She never came to me. Da 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 da. So then Brandon made a video about a month ago on his childhood, and it sparked something in me, and I was like, it was like a very faint thing, a very faint remembrance of my mom saying something to me, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, however long ago it was, that this happened, that this transpired. And I was like, I'm like, what? But it wasn't clear. I was just like, what's going on? I wasn't sure what was happening. And then he made, what was it that triggered that fucking memory just last week or whenever it was, 2 weeks ago? Oh, it wasn't a video he did. It was, so that was just sitting there in the back of my head, and I was like, but I couldn't recall anything else. Well, when I went through that huge, but so it's been on my mind it was on my mind for a month. But in the back of my mind, like, what, I was open to it, like, what's going on? What's happening? Is this a false memory? What is going on? Is this something being implanted into my head? What's happening here? So then, when I went through that huge detox a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, I went through that huge detox that I documented. And when that happened, while I was going through that detox, because what's happening is my body's clearing out, and all this trauma and abuse, it gets stored in our bodies physically. And so I've been cleaning out so deeply for, 90 something days now. I've been on juice cleaning out, and then 6 months of raw prior to that. So my body's been healing and slowly detoxing and cleansing out. So when I went through that huge detox dump a couple weeks ago, that memory came flooding back to me. So the only thing that was going through my mind the whole time I was suffering through that huge detox and couldn't get out of bed and felt like death was the memory of, oh my God, my mom coming to me and trying to tell me about what the abuse Brendan had told her. I guess when I went later that week to pick him up, and she approached me and said, hey, I got it all documented. And I had told her, I had brushed her off and said whatever I said, and I'm still not even clear on it. Like, the whole memory hasn't come back, but it was something to the effect. Like, I get more of an emotional remembrance. Like, I just remember being mad at her, like, as much as she abused as she did to me, that she dared try to even act like she knew more about my child than I did, and then not only that, but then try to tell me that he was being abused when she's refused her whole life and my whole life to recognize any of my abuse. So it was like, that's more, I don't remember. So I feel like I just brushed her off, but because I just get an overwhelming sense of emotions, of anger towards her at that moment. And so anyways, that's why that memory had gotten, so because of my dereliction of duty of being a proper parent and not jumping on that and taking care of that situation right at that moment, I allowed that to just sit and simmer, and then Brandon to have to go through years more of whatever he went through. And so I did that to Brandon, and that's what I'm saying. Just recently, this just happened 2 weeks ago. I had to come to him and be like, hey man, I remember now. I remember being told that, and what it was that toxin dump. I had held onto that, my little secret, so long and buried it so deep that I had derelicted my duty, that it didn't even come back to my conscious awareness until I cleaned it out through toxin dumping, through proper nutrition, through proper eating, and not poisoning myself. And because with that poison, I was burying it. We keep poisoning ourselves daily with all this stuff and distraction. And what it does is it just buries that stuff deeper and deeper and deeper. And so, it just keeps on putting layer after layer on top of these things. And so that's why we get to these age of like 40 or whatever. And then by that time, 45, and then we're just like so fucked with all of the bearing of all of our shit that we're like, what the fuck? Why do I feel like this? And we can't even remember all the bad shit that led up to this because we've been burying it, lying about it our whole lives and acting like it didn't happen, or that if it did happen, it just made us stronger. And so, my nose, I just shaved. I think I got hairs in my nose. I'm not doing cocaine. But yeah, man. So it's about playing this parent role while healing with my 25-year-old son, who's my oldest, and he lives with me. So it's sort of a different kind of scenario, because most people's 25 years old are living here, they're married, have kids, all this other stuff. Thankfully, Brandon is independent and, hasn't burdened himself with a relationship, a marriage, kids, or any of that stuff. He's intelligent enough and I guess got traumatized enough and learned through that trauma and abuse instead of like my dumbass had to fucking prove everybody wrong and show everybody I was going to do it right and then fuck everything up even worse. So, it's coming. So this whole thing is coming to terms and being open and honest. I lied to Brandon a year ago. I lied to Brandon 6 months ago about that situation, but I lied because I had been lying to myself and I had it buried, that memory buried so deep. But when it finally did come up, I made sure I fucking apologized, recompensed, and did verbally whatever I could. And, as I remember things, I'm going to tell him, but I nothing more has come out of that other than what I've told him already. But, that's what it is. That's all we can do. I can't sit here and be like, oh, and go to him every day and be like, oh, Brandon, I can't believe I'm so ashamed. I hid that from you and I'm so ashamed I didn't do anything. No, there's nothing I can do. I was fucking a traumatized, abused individual that didn't heal, that was running around like with chicken with their head cut off like a goddamn feral cat, fucking couldn't be cornered in anything because so I like it was impossible. And it all comes back to the fact that I had to take that responsibility and start doing my own healing and taking care of myself. And if I would have done that decades ago, Brandon wouldn't have went through this shit. So, it's knowing that I can't be carrying that shame and guilt. And how do I not carry that shame and guilt? As soon as these things come up, I confront them, I face them, I put the truth out there, and then I let it resonate. I inspect it thoroughly. I break it all down. I see how it intersects and reacts and how it interchanges with everything and how it relates to everything else. And then I change my behaviors, and it's as simple as that. So, I don't tell this story without shame and guilt. I mean, it makes me feel shame and guilt telling this shit. I mean, that's a terrible fucking parent. Nobody should be a parent who would even allow any of that shit, any of this shit. But, what can I do? I can't, the past is the past. I just have to recognize it, accept it, be honest and courageous and be truthful about it, and then carry it and say, yes, I did that. But now, this is how I am. This is how I act. This is how I will be, and so it's breaking those behaviors, it's breaking those actions, it's breaking those thought processes. It's not justifying and excusing. There's no justification and excuse for me not doing anything for him. When my mom came and told me, there's none. What I have to say though is that the reason I didn't is because I was an unhealed, abused, traumatized person who was being brought this information by my predator, by my narcissist, by my psychopath, by my sociopath who abused and traumatized me for my whole childhood. I mean, my whole adulthood up to that point, and was using that and was such a conniving, manipulating person. And, that's why I probably want to see, that's why all of this is necessary. That's why I had to come out with the truth last year and break down my whole childhood and speak out against my mom openly and truthfully and honestly and lay it all out there. Because she, until I did, even though I had cut her off a few years back, she still had that mental, that psychological, emotional, religious, spiritual control over me. Even though I cut her off from, and she lives in 2 states away, 3 states away, she still had that control over me because her secret was safe with me, with her abused little prey that she had that control over. And until I let it out and got it out of me, do you guys see how this all plays in together? Do you see how this healing is all interchangeable, how it all connects? It's all connected, guys. It's all connected. You pull on the spider web over here and it shakes over here because it's all connected. You couldn't have gotten that part over there without this part over here, and you can't have that part over here without this part over here. It all connects into our tangled web that we're untangling and unweaving. So it all needs to be addressed. And the number one thing we have to do is be honest. But that honesty takes courage, because the way to break away from these narcissists and the control and power that they have held over us, these predators that abused and traumatized us, is to speak out. Until we speak out, it's our secret between us and them. No matter how no matter how much we cut them off, no matter how much we think that we've gotten away from them and we started our own life and we make our own decisions, we're still living under their umbrella. We're still feeding them energy and thoughts and fear and worry and lack and desire, all the way wherever they are, how far away from us they are. They are still feeding off of our energy until we speak out and get these things out and get the truth out. So, so Brandon, I've fucked up huge, man. Huge. Out of all my kids, I've fucked up the most with him, big time. Allowing all of these, the parties I would have, the drunkenness, the naked women, the fucking different women, the goddamn crazy dudes. I was not hanging out with, good people. I was hanging out with belligerent street rats like me, or crazy alcoholics, drug addicts, fucking lunatics, psychopaths, fucking psychos, fucking sex addicts, fucking you name it. Crazy fuckers, and I was I was right up there with them, that because like birds of a feather flock together. I was no better. I was just like I was a sex addict. I was an alcoholic. I was a fucking everything, all of it. And he didn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it. He is a product of the abuse that I placed on him. He is a product of the trauma that I put into his life that he has to now heal from. And it's because half of it has to deal with me. The other half's his mom's. But half of it is mine. And even more so because he only lived with his mom for like fucking 7, 8, 9 months. The rest of it he's been living with me. So really 95% of his shit is on me. He's been under my care, So everything you hear in his videos and the things he's working through is all things that I failed as a parent. Everything that you hear in his videos is everything that I failed as a parent. The safe space I failed to provide him, the proper upbringing, the proper teaching, the proper care, the proper guidance, the proper protection, everything. And so, yeah, that's something that daily I acknowledge to myself, that the only reason this man has to go through this and deal with all this confusion right now is because of me, and it's not that I get all, what am I going to do? No, because if I'd let that affect me like that, I'd be a goddamn fucking right back at the bottom of 50 fucking liquor bottles right now. I'd be so fucking drunk beyond my fucking gourd, hiding my shame and guilt and the pain that that brings. But no, I've faced it, and it doesn't bring me pain anymore. It just brings me like a deep sorrow that I know my story isn't the only one. Because I hung out with a lot of other parents that did, I mean, parents that forced their kids onto fucking heavy drugs and alcohol at extremely young ages. Parents that would, force their kids onto these drugs just to get them from the state and then sell them. Parents who fucking let their kids have, oh man, do all kinds of nasty, dirty shit. I mean, I hung out with some dirty ass, nasty parents, man. So, I know I'm not the worst, but it's not about that. It's not, it's not trauma wars. It's not playing who's the better parent. It's not finding your status. Oh, well, okay, I did that wrong, but at least I'm not that bad. It's not about that. I have an extreme sorrow of the pervasiveness of this complete chaos in all of society. All of society is just wrought with this disease that we're all under. And we just, we have kids and we pass it down. And guys, we just have to remember, again, that we choose to have these children. They did not choose to come here. We chose to bring these kids into this fucking chaos. And so it doesn't matter. It is everything they are dealing with, and that where they're at stems from us bringing them into these systems and forcing these systems down their throats. And I mean, I don't know what else to cover with Brandon. I mean, with Brandon, I could make hours and hours and hours long videos, but going into all the details. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to relate how the different things in mental processes, and as we're healing, that we have to deal with and face, and how we're supposed to deal with the shame and guilt at the same time. So again, leave your comments. I think I'll cut that off here. But yeah, leave your comments. If there's things that you think I should go into further, Brandon, if there's things that I should cover further that you think might help people, please feel free to leave a comment. I can make more videos on your experience alone. But otherwise, I think I'm going to jump into Sammy, my daughter, my second child, my middle child's upbringing next, and just relate again, just not go into all her details either, but just relate certain things that way you guys can see how all of these things are relatable, and how we're all in this together in this, as far as these situations being relatable with those of us who have kids who are trying to heal. So I hope this helps somebody. Please leave your comments, your thoughts, your questions, etc. And take care of yourselves, guys, because nobody else will.